You think you're in control, right? You open up your phone, you scroll, you decide what to watch, what to read. But what if that feeling of choice is just an illusion? What if there's an invisible editor sitting between you and reality, making those choices for you? It's not just filtering the news, my friend. It's curating your entire consciousness. Today, we're going to pull back that curtain and take a hard look at the unseen hand of AI.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll get a handle on what this invisible editor even is. Then, we're going to pop the hood and look at the engagement engine that makes it all run. From there, we'll talk about the real-world consequences, these distorted realities we're all living in, and ask the big question, who is auditing the algorithm? And finally, we'll finish on how we can start reclaiming our feeds.
Because really, that's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? When you're staring at your screen, who's actually calling the shots? Is it you, or is it some incredibly complex system that has its own agenda? Let's find out. All right, let's dive into this first big idea, this concept of an invisible editor. It's really the perfect way to think about the AI systems that are, let's be honest, pretty much running our digital lives now.
This quote just nails it. That invisible editor is the new gatekeeper. It's not some far-off sci-fi concept. It's right there on your phone every single day, shaping what you think is important, what you believe is true, and maybe even what you think is real.
And that's the key thing to get. This goes way beyond just showing you a few articles it thinks you'll like. It's literally building a world around you. Every single recommendation, every video that autoplays, every headline it pushes to the top, think of it like a brick in the wall of your own personal reality. And it's influencing you in ways you probably don't even notice.
So how does this editor actually work? What's its motivation? Well, that brings us to the engine that drives it all, this non-stop, relentless pursuit of your attention. Some people call it the engagement trap.
You see, the currency for these algorithms, it isn't truth. It's not accuracy. It's your engagement. It's trained on these things called metrics, like how long you watch a video or how fast you click on the link. Every single thing you do is a signal that teaches the AI how to keep you glued to that screen.
And this slide just lays out the fundamental conflict perfectly. The official mission of a lot of these platforms is to inform you or connect you with people. But the actual functional goal of the algorithm, it's just to retain you, to keep you on the app. Informing you is just a means to an end.
This is what creates this incredibly powerful feedback loop. And it starts super small. You just pause for like half a second on some outrageous headline. The AI sees that. It records that tiny pause as a micro signal of interest. It starts to learn that the stuff that really gets you to stop scrolling is the emotional, polarizing content. So what does it do? It pushes more of that stuff to the top of your feed, and boom, you're in this cycle that values outrage way more than it values understanding.
So, what actually happens when billions of us are living inside these personalized, engagement-driven bubbles? Well, you get what we're calling the algorithmic prism effect.
Man, this quote from the head of Instagram, it's pretty wild. Think about it. When AI can create stuff that looks and feels totally real, and the algorithms are designed to promote what's engaging instead of what's true, our own skepticism becomes the last line of defense. We can't just trust what we see anymore.
And hey, this isn't just a hunch. The research is backing it up. Smart people at places like the Stanford Social Media Lab have confirmed it. They've found that these platforms create what they call distortion effects. The algorithm doesn't just reflect reality. It bends it, it refracts it, and it messes with our perception of how well we're all getting along. So that whole idea of a friendly digital town square? Yeah, their research says that's basically a myth.
And one of the biggest casualties of this whole system is nuance. Complicated stories, the ones with multiple viewpoints that require a little thought, they just don't create those big, shiny engagement signals like a simple us versus them story does. So what happens? The thoughtful, balanced stuff gets buried. Not because a person decided to, but because of the cold, hard math of the engagement engine. It's like a shadow ban on complexity itself.
So this, of course, brings up a massive, thorny question about accountability. If these AI systems are the new gatekeepers of, well, everything, who's making sure they're not screwing things up?
No, seriously, who checks the AI's work? When an algorithm decides to bury one story and make another one go viral, who holds it accountable? This is the whole black box problem everyone's talking about with AI.
I mean, think about it. In the old days, you had a human editor. And sure, they had their own biases, but at least they could be held to some kind of ethical standard. We've basically traded that for a totally opaque system whose main goal is profit. Its code of ethics is the profit motive, and that's why viral nonsense often gets more attention than critical local news.
Now, the good news is governments are finally starting to wake up to this. A recent memo from the White House on AI, for example, is pushing for the kind of transparency we desperately need. It's calling for public notice about these systems, for documenting where the training data even came from, and for looking at the risks. It's a huge first step.
So, does this all mean we're just helpless victims of the algorithm? Well, not necessarily. And that brings us to our final section, the fight to get some control back, the fight for our own digital agency.
Okay, so one of the coolest tech solutions on the horizon is this idea of content provenance. The easiest way to think about it is like a digital nutrition label for your media. It's a verifiable record baked right into an image or an article that tells you exactly where it came from and if anyone has messed with it. Groups like the C2PA are working to make this a global standard. So, what can you actually do right now? Well, here are a few ideas. First, start looking for tools or third-party filters that give you more control, like letting you switch your feed back to chronological order. Second, make a real effort to go to static news sources directly, actual websites that aren't trying to gain your attention 24/7. And third, start asking for and looking for those content provenance labels. But if you remember one thing from all this, let it be this. Awareness is your most powerful weapon. The very moment you realize that your information diet is being actively managed by an AI, your whole relationship with it changes. You stop being just a passive consumer, and you start being an active, critical thinker. And that's the question I really want to leave you with. In this new world where fake can look real, and algorithms are built for attention, not for truth, how are you going to verify what you see? What's your personal strategy going to be for navigating the algorithmic prism?